Hey, courageous school leaders. Welcome to Lead Beyond Limits, the space where school leaders like you gain unfiltered insights from educators, uncover the hidden barriers holding your staff back, and get practical strategies to lead with confidence. If you're ready to tackle the real challenges in your schools and create the clarity your team needs to thrive, you're in the right place. Let's dive in and get to work. Good evening, everybody. First of all, hello, good evening. I hope everyone is doing well. And I think I'm having some technical difficulties. I'm not quite sure if you can hear me. Okay, I think I may have fixed it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lead Beyond Limits. I'm so glad that you can join in this evening. I'm running a little behind schedule. You know, life happens. I hope the new year has been going well for you all so far. So welcome. My name is Dr. Demia Thomas. Welcome to Lead Beyond Limits. And this is the space for leaders who are thoughtful, capable, and carrying responsibility that doesn't pause just because the calendar moves, right? So Lead Beyond Limits is about it's about what happens to clarity once the pressure shows up of the work, right? So it's not about motivation, it's not about adding strategies, right? This is about what happens when the clarity to your clarity once the pressure shows up, the demands that you don't expect. Okay. So, again, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about exactly that. Rebuilding clarity every week is the quiet drain that nobody really talks about, right? Because we're so busy in the work when just doing it, we're actually being reactive. And so we don't talk about why that is the case. So we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight, okay? So most leaders, like you all don't wake up confused. You know exactly what you want. You know what you want it to look like and sound like, right? Most leaders are clear. They wake up clear, and then the week starts deciding for them. Monday feels clean. Priorities are named. Meetings feel aligned, right? Decisions feel responsible or they feel reasonable, right? Um, and then the week accelerates. A new issue lands, a conversation takes longer than planned. We all know those conversations, right? Standing in the hallway or even in your office. Something urgent asks to borrow time just this once. And instead of clarity breaking, it starts repeating. Okay, let me talk a little bit more about that. So, rebuilding your clarity feels feels responsible, right? Leaders say things like, "Let me restate this," or "Just to be clear." That's one I used to say all the time. Just to be clear, right? Or leaders will say, "I know we talked about this, but," that sounds like leadership, right? And it is. But here's what it quietly teaches your teams, right? And the people in your building. It teaches them that they have to wait. It will teach them that priorities might shift, right? Especially with that last statement, like, I know I said this, but it also teaches them not to move too far ahead without checking. And that is not a motivation issue. It's not. It's about the authority that is starting to erode slowly. Okay. And so our conversation tonight is really about that. It's about how we can prevent that from happening. What is the hidden cost when our clarity is leaking? Okay. And so before we get deeper into this, I also last week I shared that I recreated the Lead Beyond Limits guide from being a reflection tool to being a tool of purpose, right? Something that you can really use during the Lead Beyond Limits series, right? And so I want to pause here and give you something that you can see more clearly. So I recreated the free resource, and it's not called the Clarity and Confidence Guide any longer. It's the Clarity Protection Guide, because that is what the goal is, to protect your clarity, because you have it. It just gets lost among all the other things that happen during a single day in your school building. So this guide isn't a workbook. It isn't something that you have to complete, right? It is designed to be used when you are engaging in these Lead Beyond Limit sessions, like whenever you're watching, right? To track where your clarity is thinning under pressure, because it happens to the best of us. Okay. So hit me up and I can send you the link for it. It's absolutely free. When you get it, on page 3 of the guide, it names a through line of the Lead Beyond Limits very clearly. Clarity doesn't disappear because leaders are careless. It fades when pressure shows up and nothing is protecting it. Let that sit for a minute. You have the clarity, but it fades if nothing protects it. So let me give you an example, right, of how, um, of what I mean. So during a session like today, let me give you an example of how you can use the guide, the Clarity Protection Guide, um, during these sessions. So the guide will ask you to notice where clarity starts to thin first, right? And so the questions are, what gets harder to hold once your week accelerates? What requires repeated explanation to your staff? What slips when attention gets divided? There are distractions around, right? And so this again, it really isn't about self-awareness. It's about being able to recognize a pattern, so that once you realize and recognize a pattern, you can now put things in place to help prevent that from happening, to help prevent your clarity from slipping, right? Rebuilding is information. Okay. It is the information that you need so that you can prevent things from slipping again. Not things, let me be really specific here. This is about your clarity. Okay. So there's this um, decision pressure that school leaders all experience, right? And it's important to talk about clarity and why talking about it and not having it not slip really matters, because of the decision pressure that you as school leaders are under, right? So when leaders rebuild clarity every week, teams don't push back, they make adjustments, right? That is adaptive leadership, being able to pivot and make adjustments when and where needed, right? So sometimes decisions will slow down, right? Sometimes people wait for confirmation, right? And people tend to move cautiously instead of confidently. Okay. This is because rebuilding clarity every week, it starts to chip away at momentum, right? I talk a lot about the difference between motion and momentum. It starts to chip away at the momentum if you have built any, right? So over time, leadership becomes louder, not really clearer, right? So I need you to take a moment now and just to think, like, when you may have experienced that as a leader and your team, right? The evidence would be your team waiting to make a decision, right? I have clients who talk about that very frequently. They want their leadership team to just take action, but it's more than them just taking action. It's about the leader having the clarity so that the message is uniform across the team. Everyone understands what those expectations are. Okay. So the you obtaining the guide is really, like, if you really want to dig deep into this, obtaining the guide would be your next best step. So DM me the word guide and I will send you the link. I'm not going to put it in the comments because I'm going to put a different link in the comments. But if you're interested in the guide, just hit me up in the comments and with the word guide, and I will send you the link. Again, it is absolutely free. Um, so toward the end of the guide, there's a question that I want you to sit with for a second. Okay. And the question is, what related to today's topic am I no longer willing to rebuild? Okay. What are you no longer willing to rebuild? It could be um, going in and seeing a certain number of classrooms instruction every day. For me and my team, we had to go in and see at least three, no less than three classrooms every day, the entire team. Me, my two APs, my dean, right? If you're thinking three classrooms every day, that's 12 classrooms that are getting feedback on instruction every day. Now we had a whole schedule where we had a bye week, right? Where certain grade levels wouldn't be seen, certain people on the team would have a bye, a day where you didn't go in classrooms, you had to rotate it, right? It was very, very intricate. But the impact was amazing. So when you're thinking about this question that's in the guide, what related to today's topic am I no longer willing to rebuild? It could be the fact of, like, for me, it was going into classrooms and observing and giving feedback to teachers on instruction. That was it, hands down. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That was why I was there. I was the instructional leader, and that was my thing that I was unwilling to rebuild every week. It had to stick, and we built momentum, right? Which is what helped our school move. So again, the question is, what related to today's topic am I no longer willing to rebuild? Think about the thing for you that you are no longer willing to rebuild each week. And so that's really not a reflection question. That's like, I'm drawing the line in the sand right now, period. Right? Absolutely no questions about it, right? Um, and so make sure that I really feel like I really feel. I know once you get the guide, you will find it useful in terms of the reflective questions that are there for you. So, um, I have been working on a master class, the Clarity Now class. And so the Clarity Now master class is designed to do exactly what I'm talking about, right? It's to interrupt this um, lack of clarity maintenance, right? Because you have the clarity, but it's maintaining it, right? It's not trying to fix everything. It's not to motivate you because you are, as leaders, self motivated. I know that. But it is to stop the quiet rebuilding cycle and decide what actually deserves protection. Again, for me, it was instruction. For you, it may be attendance, right? For you, it may be if you have a restorative practice or a advisory, or some type of, in my one of my schools we had crew time to make sure that was something that we did not have to rebuild, right? Those things were protected. So you need to decide. It could be how the effective operation of your special education meetings, your IEP meetings, right? You need to decide what that is for you and your team and your school based on the goals that you have, right? Once you build the momentum for that, it'll be a like it'll run on its own. That's the beautiful thing about this. Okay. So the Clarity Now Master Class is $47 because this is about making a decision. You're not going to consume content at all in this master class. It is this Saturday at 10 a.m. And so strong leaders do not reset more, right? Like I know, and I've even used this term about resetting in January. Um, but strong leaders actually protect better, right? There are some times when they do need to reset, but resetting every week means something else. That's a pattern. That's meaning you're not protecting your time, your space, your clarity, right? Your focus, your goals. You're not protecting that. So think about that. And if today landed for you, um, DM me the word guide and I will send you the link for free so that you can use it as you engage with the Lead Beyond Limits series or the sessions that we have here on Monday, right? So not later, not perfectly, just honestly. And if you're ready to interrupt the cycle, the pattern that you see, where you want to interrupt how your clarity is being disrupted every week, and you have to reset the Clarity Now Masterclass is there, and I'll leave it right there. Okay. So until next time, I want you to keep leading beyond limits. Have a great evening.